Okay, today's daf, Bez Hashem, Masechta Metzia daf Vav. We're gonna begin. Let's just make it bigger. Over here, it's nice geschmack, psychological Gemara, and that's what I like about this Gemara. So just to review the Mishnah said, Shnayim oichesim betalis. If two people are holding on to a talis, imagine a big talis, and two people are holding on to it. Ze oime ani mitzasiyah. Each one says, I found it. And the other one says, I found it. So really, you could be Salmonic about it and say, let's split it in half. And that's exactly what's going to happen. But we don't split it in half yet. What you do is each one swears that they own at least a half. I mean, they're trying to say that they own the whole thing. Each one has to swear that that he owns, that the talus belongs to him, basically. And then we split it. Okay? Then we split it. Now, that's what the Mishnah says. Now, the question is, if we're going to split it anyway, why do you have to make them swear? So the Gemara answered a very fascinating. Rabbi Yochanan said that the shvua that we said in here on their daf Heyam Beis, shvua zu takanas chachamim hi. The chachamim made up this shvua. Why? Because if every time you're going to have a fight with somebody, and each one is holding on to a garment, you're going to split it. So I'm going to go over to you, and I'm going to see you holding your talus. I'm going to grab a hold of it and say it's mine, and we're going to split it. So we're choished that you're a ganav. Shvu azu tekanas chachamihi. Shaloi tehei kol echad ve'echad hoylech v'toikiv b'talisi shel chaverei v'oimer shalihi. That people should not come, grab the talus of his friend and say, shalihi, it's mine. So by making him swear, it slows him down. He starts thinking, I'm a ganav, but I don't want to swear falsely. You hear this? I'm a ganav. I don't want to swear falsely. So the Gemara asked the question.
I guess because there's such a stigma that how bad it is to swear falsely. Because if you're a ganav, I guess you're a ganav.
That's what the Gemara wants to understand. Let us say, Migoy, the Chashar Amamoyne, Chashar Nama Ashvu Usa. That's the Gemara's question. Why don't you say that if a guy is so blatant that he would swear that he would steal money, why don't you say he would swear falsely? And here's the key for the entire Gemara. Lo Yamrinim, we don't say Midei the Chashar Amamoyne, Chashar Ashvu Asa. A very important point. We never say that just because the guy feels that he's a ganav, if I know that I'm a ganav, I still will be careful not to swear falsely. And that is the yesod of the Gemara. Now, the Gemara wants to prove that point. And we're going, hi, Sheldon, we just began. We're just on Hey Amid Beis, and we're proving the point of how do you know if a person is a ganav, he will not swear falsely. How do you know? Maybe a guy who's a ganav, will also take a false oath. So the Gemara says you can't say that because Elahod the Amar Rav Huna. I prove it to you. Rav Huna said, a guy said, if you remember this from your, I don't know, in the elementary schools they learn it, Parak HaMafkin. A guy who's a shomer chinam, right? He was watching something, and then it got stolen from him. So really, he can say to the guy, it was stolen from me, and I'm pater from paying. A shomer chinam, a guy who's not paid watchman, he doesn't have to pay. He doesn't have to pay if it's stolen. But he says, I don't like to swear. And therefore, he'll say, I'll pay for the item. Just don't make me swear, even though I don't have to. So Rav Huna said, nevertheless, we are concerned about this person's, the shomer's altruistic motive, because maybe he liked the item so much, he's claiming that it was stolen, and he says he's going to pay for it in order for him to keep it. So Rav Huna said, "Mashbiyan oisai shvua she'ena barushusai." Even though, no matter what, a shomer chinam, even if he's going to pay for the item, he has to swear that he doesn't have the item in his possession, because I'm afraid that maybe he wants to keep it. So if you're afraid of that, you're really afraid that this person, this shomer, is a ganav. If you consider him a ganav, why would you trust him to make us an oath? Nema, let us say, migoy the chashid amamoyne chashid ashvu asa. Maybe just because you accuse him from stealing money, how do you know he's going to? Why don't you accuse him that he's going to swear falsely? So it must be the Gemara proves that point that just because somebody feels that they're a ganef doesn't mean that they're going to swear falsely. They just have a higher for taking an oath. They're more scared. That was the Gemara's proof. So Gemara refutes that proof and says, no, really, the guy himself, the person, the Shayman himself, does not view himself as a ganef. Why? Why wouldn't he view himself as a ganef? Because he says, Hasam nami moira v'omar. He rationalizes. The word moira means you rationalize in your head and you say, I'm not a thief. I'm actually domi kayavin. I'm paying for the item. So if I'm paying for the item, I'm not a thief. And therefore, that type of person, you would trust him if he takes an oath. But what about a Madoff? A guy who knows inside that he's a ganef? So could be such a person would take a false oath. So Amalei Rav Acha Difti Ravinus. Rav Acha from Difti said to Ravina, "V'ha'ka'ava alav d'loy sachmoi." You call him a ganef, correct? But but at the end of the day, he doesn't feel he's a ganef. But he should feel bad that he's blatantly violating the commandment of you should not covet. The fact that if you're accusing him of wanting to keep the item that was in his watch, so he's transgressing the sin of loisachmoy, right? And therefore, if he can transgress the sin of don't covet, he will transgress the sin of don't swear falsely. They're both part of the 10 Commandments. So the question is, why would I trust him on a Shavua? Answers the Gemara, loy sachmid le'enosher b'loy domi mashmalahu. The act of loy sachmid, of do not covet, in his view, it refers to a person that does not pay for it. That's not paying for the item. But in his mind, I'm paying for the item. So he doesn't feel himself as a ganef. He doesn't feel himself that he's violating the commandment loy sachmid. Therefore, such a person you can trust a shavua. But if a guy feels that himself, it could be, if a person feels himself as a ganef, could be, he would go so far and swear falsely. So the Gemara tries to prove it from other places. Rav Nachman said, a guy who somebody says, you owe me $1,000, and the guy denies the whole thing. He says, I don't owe you anything. So min ha-Torah, that you don't have to swear. Rav Nachman said, Mashbiyan oisoi shvuas heses. The Midrabanan, they put on him an oath to remove, because how could it be that somebody comes over to you and says, you owe me $1,000? What is he, nuts? Obviously, there must be something to it. So the person, the other person should make a shvua midrabanan. So again, because we are accusing him of denying everything because he wants to steal a loan that he got. He wants to keep the loan that he got. So Neima, why don't you say over there, Migai de chashad amamoneh, since you're accusing this person that he's stealing, violating money, why would you trust him to swear falsely, to swear at shvu de rabbanon, chashad ashvu ase? He should be concerned that he's going to swear falsely. So how does that make sense? Vesu, in another case, Hadatana Rabbi Chia taught, the case is like this. A man said to his chenveni, he had a banker, okay? A man has a banker and says to his banker, hey, I'm sending you my workers, pay them a salary, pay them the wages that I owe them, and I'll pay you back. So the banker comes and says, I paid the wages. The workers come back to the owner and says, we never got paid. So Shneim Nishboim, now obviously somebody's lying over here, either the worker or the banker. Shneim Nishboim, both the banker and the worker swear that they followed through the instructions. The banker says he gave the worker says they never received anything. And the Noitlim and Balabayas, and they both collect from the Balabayas, the banker and the workers. But obviously one of them is for sure liar. So why do we make them swear when you have a problem over here? Once you feel that somebody is going to lie, somebody is a for sure liar over here, why would you put upon them the obligation to swear? You're causing somebody to swear falsely. Let us say, just because somebody is concerned about money, we should accuse him that he's going to swear falsely. So it must be, again, you have to turn your finger. It must be just because a guy is a ganef and a guy could steal, but he would never take an oath, swear to God that of something to be true. V'su, and I'll prove it to you in another case. Hod Amar Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes says that Rav Sheshes said that Shloisha Shavuos Mashbiyan Oisa. A guy, a Shemechinam said, a watchman said that whatever you gave me was stolen. Okay, so let's say Shemechinam, he would be potter from paying. He takes 3 oaths in order to exonerate himself. One oath, he says, Shaloi Pashati Ba. I wasn't negligent in my watchman. I didn't, put it on the street so somebody could take it. Then he swears, he has to swear that he didn't use it. So, for example, if he was watching somebody's guitar, he has to swear that he never even used it, because once he used it without permission, he's a ganav. And he says, Shavua she'ena b'rashosi, and he has to swear that it's not in my possessions. So those are the 3 shvuas that he has to swear. Now, if you're asking him to swear that it's not, he didn't keep it, so then you must be accusing him of being a ganav. So again, the same question is, Nema, let us say, Migoy de Chashad Mamoine, just since you're accusing him to steal something, that he wants to keep the item that was in his watch, Chashad Ashwase, let's accuse him that he's not going to swear truthfully. So why do we let him swear in the first place? Ella, says the Gemara, it's a beautiful teretz. We never say that just because you accuse a person for stealing money doesn't mean that you could accuse him that he's going to swear falsely. That doesn't go hand in hand. Abaya says like this, really, and it goes back to the Mishnah. The question of the Mishnah was, the Mishnah discussed, again, we saw this in the Mishnah. Let's just bring up the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Abaya has another understanding of our Mishnah. 2 people are holding a talis. Each one says, I was the one, it's my talis. And this one says, it's my talis. So we split it. We do a Salmonic split. But each one has to swear that they own it, right? They have to Zeyeshava v'Zeyeshava. The question is, why do we make them swear if you're going to split it anyway? Why do you make them swear? That was the Gemara's question. So Abaya is going to come and say, really, I would say that the talis belongs to one person. Okay, let's imagine talis one person. So the other person sees that this guy owns a talis. He'll come and grab it because the person who owned the talis really has a loan that he didn't pay. He owed money to the other party, and therefore, in order for him to get his money back, he just grabbed the talis. So he's not a liar saying the talis belongs to him. He's trying to steal a talis. He's really trying to collect on an old loan. So he's not a ganav. Abaya Amar Chayshinim, we are concerned that one of the parties, Shema Milva Yeshana Yesh Loy Olav. The guy has an old loan that he didn't pay his debts, so that's why the guy is grabbing it. He's not grabbing it to steal it, like Rabbi Yochanan instead. He's grabbing it because he really thinks that this is a way he's going to get paid back for an old loan. So he's really not a ganav. If that's the case, if he has this old loan that he wants to collect on, Nishko B'lai Shvuah, let him collect and take the talis without a shvuah, without an oath. Why does he have to make an oath? The answer is, Ella, Rabbi explained himself. Chayshin, we are concerned, Shemasafik Milvi Yashana Yesh Loyalav. Maybe he's not sure. He's not sure if there's an outstanding loan or not. He wasn't sure if this person paid his debt. So he grabbed a hold of it and said, it's mine. Maybe he'll get the guy to admit that he owes him some money or not. He's just not sure. So wait a second. So you're making him swear? He's going to swear falsely. He's going to swear falsely because why don't we say, if somebody could grab somebody's item because he thinks the other person owes him money, so he'll also swear falsely just because thinking that maybe the other person owes him money, claiming that this talis is his. Why? Why don't you say that if he's so blatant and so confident that he's going to grab somebody else's talit, even though he doesn't know for sure the other person owes him money, he'll just grab it and claim it's his, so he can collect on a doubtful loan. So this guy is also going to swear falsely. So what do you gain by having him swear? Answers the Gemara, Amar Rav Shesha Bereid Ravidi. The answer is Parshe Inish Mesafik Shvuah, like Parshe Inish Mesafik Mamayim. If he's in doubt, won't take an oath, but he's not going to be in doubt from grabbing somebody's talis. Why? My tama, money. If he turns out to be wrong, if he grabs somebody's talis and turns out that he wasn't supposed to take it, the guy paid his debt, Isa b'chazara, he could return the talis. But shvuah, when you're going to ask him to swear, does the guy owe you money, or do you really own this talis? he's going to back away because he knows if he swears falsely, Leisa B'chazari can't take it back. So therefore, it's as a deterrent, we make him swear. We don't just split up and that's how you explain the Mishnah of Shnayim, Sha'iksim Batalis. You split it, but you split it between the two of them, but you make them swear. Gemara says like this. Boy Reb Zera asked the question. What would be the din? Let's say we're in front of Bezdin, and they're arguing Bintram. Each one is holding the talis, and one guy pulls it out of the other person, and now only one of them is holding the talis. So Gemara says, what's the case? What's your question? Either Shasik, if the other party is quiet, the one that had the talis pulled out of his hand, and now it's in one person's hand. So I do ideally. Maybe that's his way of saying, okay, he's right. I admit that I'm wrong. But if he's screaming, hey, you're taking the talis out of my hand. How could he have defended himself? He's a smaller person. So what should he have done? So the Gemara says, the case, the Reb Zera's question is, the shosek mi'ikara v'hadet tzavach. What's the din? The guy's in front of Bezdin. Two guys, imagine two people holding a talis in front of Bezdin. One guy pulled the talis out of the other person. In the beginning, as this unfolded, the person who got the talis was quiet, lost the talis, was quiet. And then he said, hey, why'd you take it out of my hand? The question is, mid the ishtik, since he was initially quiet, that's a proof, that proves that he's moida, he agreed that really the talis belonged to the other side, because he didn't have the temerity and the strength to pull it to his side. Dilma, maybe, Kevin the Chasavachasha, but now he's complaining. Igloya Milsa, that proves, that uncovers the story. The hide the Shasik Mikara, the reason why he was quiet from the beginning. Sava al Rabbanan. He's thinking that all the rabbis see that it was pulled out of my hand, so I don't have to say anything. That's why he was quiet, but not that he is agreeing that he loses the case. So what's the question? Amar of Nachman Rav Shachar, explain Tashma, come in here. But Med Dvar Mamur and the Brisa says, when do you split it? Sheshnei Madukamba, if they're both still holding on to it. If one guy won and the talis is in the hands of one of the persons, the one that wants to pull it back and say it belongs to him, he has to prove it because he's not even holding on to the talis. Now, that Brisa seems to say something very simple. If you read the Brisa literally, that only one person walked into the Bezdin holding a talis, and the other one said, that's mine. Of course, Pshita. That, of course, if you want the talis, you have to prove it. You're not holding on to the talis. Ella, it must be, it's the same story. They both came into Bezdin holding on to the talis. And one guy in front of Bezdin pulled it so that now it's all his. And the other person was quiet initially and then made a lot of noise. So that proves Rabbi Zera's question. And it says the other guy wins. The one that's holding on to the talis wins. Answers the Gemara, no, that doesn't prove Rab Zera, because here we're discussing that Brisa that Rab Nachman brought is going to Asi Lekamam Kidit Fislei Tavayim. Granted that they both walked into Bezdin holding on to the talis. V'amrina lehu, and Bezdin gave the psak zilu ploigi, go split it. Udufaki, and they went outside, and v'hada asa kitafis like chadmine, and they walked back into Bezdin, and one of them is holding the talis, and then one of them. So Hai Amma once said, the one that's holding the talis says, he agreed that he was wrong and that the talis belongs to me. V'hai Amma, and the other one said, really, the talis belongs to me as well. The reason why he allowed him to pull it out of my hands is because he rented it from me. But he didn't pay me the rental money, and he didn't pay me the rental money, and also, I didn't collect on it, and also the talis still belongs to me. I never gave it to him. So the Brisa teaches you that you who lost, that is not holding on to the talis, you accused this other guy from stealing it from you. The fact is, you always had a bad eye for him. Now you're renting him the talis without Adim. It must be something's fishy over here, and therefore you lose the case. It's not yours. It seems that the other guy really felt that it's his talis, so that's why he had the koyach to pull it over to him. The Ibayasem, if you want, I can tell you Kiditani that the Bryce is talking about the Asila Kaman that came in front of Bezin. Tough is like Chadmanai. One was holding on to the talis. The Idach and the other person, Misrach by Sruche, was holding on to the talis, but in a very flimsy way. He wasn't really grabbing onto the talis. Even if you hold like sumchas, that sumchas always held that if two people are holding a talis, let's hold sumchas. Is sumchas that if you have money that you don't know who it belongs to, split it. It's and even without a shvu, they don't have to swear. So sumchas is always split, split, split. So here you have one guy really strongly holding onto the talis, the other person is flimsily holding onto the talis. So maybe sumchas would agree that you split it because sumchas, as long as you're holding a little bit onto the talis, will give you something. Here, the Brisa tells you, Simchas would agree that holding a kalas flimsily, it's not worth anything, doesn't mean anything. Now we say, it doesn't mean, and that's for the other person loses. Intim tzaloime, if you want to say, if you're going to say like this, if one grabs it in front of us and pulls it, he wins the case. He doesn't win the case. In fact, we would pull it back. So therefore, he doesn't win the case. So certainly that guy who overpowered and pulled it away, if he would make it hegdish, ain't mekdeshes. It's not his to make hegdish. If you'd say the towel should be hegdish, it doesn't matter. But in Tim Suleiman, if you're going on the other part of what Rabbi Zeir said, that it could be takva echa b'fanein. If one guy grabs it, ein might see an ice of the other. We don't pull it away from him. If one guy overpowered the other person, he wins. So let's say he didn't grab it yet. If he didn't grab it yet, but he said that both people holding on to the talis, right? And one guy said, Hikdisha, I'm making the whole talis headless. Beloy takfo without grabbing it. Ma, what would be the din? So basically what the Gemara is saying is, let's say two people walk into Bezdin holding on to a talis. And one guy says, it's hegdish. Would the talis now become hegdish? Why? Kevin the Amamar, since we have a statement in many places in Shas, once you make a statement that something is hegdish, is kimisirasa lehedyadami. It's like you make a kinyan, it's like you're giving it over to somebody else. So therefore, command the takfidame. It's as if he grabbed a hold of it, and it's as if it belongs to him. And we know that if he overpowered the other person, it will give it to him. And now we made it hegdish. So it would work. Idilmo, maybe, hashtami aholai takvid, but we're talking about, he didn't do that. He just held it on with the other person holding the other side of the talis, so he didn't grab it to himself, and therefore his hegdish is invalid. Why? Ksiv, the pasuk says, "Ish ki yagdish is basically kodesh." You have to make your house holy. Ma beis b'shusei, av kol b'shusei, la puka hadla b'shusei. You can't make something holy if it's not in your possessions. And the fact is that this person didn't pull the whole talis to his side, and therefore he had no right to make it hegdish. Only like a house you can make hegdish because you own the house, but you can't make something that's not yours yet into hegdish. So what would be the case? Tashma. So again, the question the Gemara is asking: if two people are holding a talis and one said, "Oh, it's hegdish," will now the talis become hegdish? Tashma. I'll give you an exact same story. Tahi. We go to the Amud Beis. Tahi Masusa. There was this bathhouse. The Havimansia Le Betray. The two people arguing. Two people arguing who owns the bathhouse. Who the one said the deed is my name, it's my bathhouse. And it was a popular bathhouse. Come Chadminay, so one of them said, I'm making the whole bathhouse belonging to the Beis Hamikdash. So Parshminay, Rab Chananya, Rab Akshaya, V'kul Rabbanan. All the rabbis, Rab Chananya and many rabbis, they didn't go into the bathhouse. They felt the bathhouse now belongs to the Rabbanan. It belongs to Hegdish. But it's almost like as if they were holding on to the bathhouse. Nobody wanted. And one guy said it's Hegdish, and now the rabbis didn't go into there anymore. They didn't want to use it. Rabbi Shaya, who wasn't sure what to do, said to Rabba, when you go visit Rav Chizda, Kafre, who's in the city of Kafre, ask him this question. Again, two people are having an argument of who owns the bathhouse. And one said it's Hegdish. They didn't make it, Rabba didn't make it to Rav Chizda's house in Kafre, because on his way, he came to a place called Surah, and he found another person to ask this question. Amalei Rav Hanuna said, yes, I have an answer, and we'll stop in a minute. It's a Mishnah. Suffik b'chayris. If you have a suffik, if the Mishnah says like this, you have a suffik if something is a bechar. Echad bechar adam. Let's say a bechar adam. A couple had a baby. It could be she miscarried the first time, so this is not a bechor. Or maybe the miscarriage was not any miscarriage to invalidate the baby that's born as a bechor. So you're not sure if it's a bechor. whether it's a bechar belonging to a person. So maybe he owes money to the kohen, or bechar of an animal, let's say animals, you have to give the firstborn animal to the kohen. Or if it's a chamor, a donkey, you have to give a sheep to the kohen. Either way, you're not sure if you're supposed to give something to the kohen or not. Now the question is, the one that wants it has to prove to the other side. What does that mean? If the kohen grabbed the animal and said it's mine, even though it was a suffix, he gets to keep it. That's what the Mishnah said. And the Yisrael who wants it back has to prove that it's not a bachar. Utana law, and we learned in the Brisa explaining that Mishnah that even if the kohen didn't grab it, asurit begizav avodah, it still remains holy. It still has a din of bachar. You can't share it. You can't work with the animal because maybe it's a suffix bachar. V'hacha, so that's the Gemara's question. Hacha, in this case, the Amar, we say takva kohen. That's the name of the sugya. If the kohen grabbed it from the Yisrael, he grabbed his bachar at this doubtful suffix bachar and said it's mine. Ein Metzia nice miyade. If we would not pull it back and say you have to give it back to Yisrael. The Ketani Amaytzi Mechaber Olavaraya. We said that the Yisrael has to get it, has to prove that it's not a bachar. So if the kohen grabs it, he keeps it. And v'chi like takva, if he didn't grab it, we still say it has a din of kedusha. The kedusha works. Asur begizav avodah. It still has a din kedusha's bachar. So same thing over here. When two people are holding on to a talis, even though one didn't pull it to his side, he could still be makdash it, just like over there, it has a kedusha's bachar, even if the kohen didn't grab it. Amalein, here we end. Rabbi Abba explained, kedusha's bachar ka'amrit. You're questioning me about kedusha's bachar. I will tell you the opposite. If the kohen would grab it, we give it back to Yisrael. He has no right to grab it. Nevertheless, it has a din bechor on that animal. Why? The kedusha ba me'eleh hoshani. Bechor comes automatically. You don't have to make it holy. A bechor is a holy thing. So therefore, min hashamayim, this animal became a little holy, which even if the kohen didn't grab it, it would still be usher to share it and work with the animal. But if two people are holding on to a talis, and one said it should be holy, it should be kaddish, he has no right to make it holy. It's not his yet. As long as it's not his, kedusha would not work, because the only way you can be mekadesh something is only if it's in your domain, like a house. Okay, we'll stop over here. Finish.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.